John Olivier here, your host of Serious and Silliness Outcast and Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding. We have a great new sponsor, Jersey Alternative Medicine, Anti-Aging and Hormone Replacement Clinic. Just go to the website, njaltmeds.com. That's njaltmeds.com. Or you give them a call at 609-977-2981. So what do? They actually offer a variety of services like TRT replacement, medical weight loss, female sexual health, male sexual health, injectable peptides, anti-aging treatment. And this is all under the eyes of an actual physician. You fill out an intake form. You go over symptoms with a clinician, and they will customize medication that you could take. And the best part is it's prescribed by a physician and it is delivered to your doorstep in all 50 states. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. That is njaltmeds.com, 609-977-2981. Go to Jersey Alternative Medicine now and get healthy.
Yeah.
All right, Serious and Silliness out. No, wrong channel. Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding. My Outcast channel has porno stars, mafia guys, bikers, prostitutes, and all the other beautiful people like that. So we're not on that channel. We're on the bodybuilding channel.
I was going to say, I am none of those things. I am many things, but I can honestly say I am zero of the aforementioned.
I just had a great interview. This guy named Gabe, what is it? Gabe Morales? Yes, Gabe Morales. He's an author, a former prison counselor, and prison guard. Wrote a book about the Mexican mafia. So we talked about the history of the Mexican mafia and how it's doing in prison now. And then we also talked about this white, it's like radical white group, kind of like a skinheads, only they're called the Peckerwoods. Where they're kind of like a farm system for the Aryan Brotherhood. So it's actually really, really interesting. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about bodybuilding, specifically classic bodybuilding with Kenson from EP09, and EP09 is taking off. Congrats on the 1 million views. Was that 1 million views for your live feed this weekend?
No, thank you very much, man. Yeah, I was before the Olympia weekend. It's actually crazy. I was sitting at
Mhm.
about 913,000 views on my channel.
Yeah,
And then I was doing the lives all weekend and it jumped up to like 1.4 million
that's
in like two
fantastic,
days.
bro.
Oh,
Congratulations, man.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
I appreciate it, man. It was a good weekend. I mean, it was a fantastic show, and that was a big part of it is that the excitement was there leading up to the show.
right.
Everybody wanted to tune in this year,
Yeah.
everybody wanted to tune in.
I mean, it benefits guys like us who have YouTube channels, but $75 for that live stream is just out of control. That's ridiculous. And what's funny is that I don't know why. I mean, I know Jake Wood is a great businessman, okay? But it's when Arnold said that the Arnold Classic was going to be free, right?
Yeah.
Uh, then all of a sudden, all these major sponsors wanted to jump on board and pay even more money because they knew that everybody was going to be watching since there was no payment. So he made money. He made his difference on the back end where people really don't want to spend $75 on bodybuilding, and they look for shows like us, like the one I did on RX, the one you did on yours, to listen or watch because they don't want to spend the money. And I don't blame them because that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and especially the value that you're getting for that money. You expect to get a certain quality value
Yeah.
when you're spending that amount of money. Now, the fact of the matter is, the prejudging video for the live stream was terrible. I mean,
Trash.
it was absolutely atrocious. They really need to look at what happened there. I hope it's not
Yeah.
just something where it happened and they don't discuss it post Olympia. I'm sure that they have meetings post Olympia to see what went right, what went
Right.
wrong, what can we do better next year. That is something they need to look at and make sure it does not happen again. Andrew Jacked, guys like Andrew Sampson, William Bonac, Brandon Kirk, they may as well have had zero legs when they were doing prejudging. It was so dark. There was
That's
such a
right.
contrast. Like it was absolutely unacceptable. I really hope that somebody's looking at that, and maybe somebody should be fired over it, to be completely honest. The biggest show in bodybuilding has the worst live stream for the prejudging of
Yeah.
any show that I saw the entire year. Absolutely unacceptable. With that being said, the 212 Classic and everything for the finals was crystal clear, and they should be looking at that, what went right, and implementing that across the entire weekend.
And they were also having a music problem too. Breon's music was screwed up. Andrew Jack's music was screwed up. You know,
Something else somebody should be fired over. Yeah.
and at an NPC level show, you're like, whatever, it's no big deal, right? But at the Olympia, really? I don't know. It's crazy.
Unacceptable, man. Unacceptable.
So, for any of you uh, fans, friends out there who enjoy bodybuilding, Kenton has a channel that's very similar to Nick Strength and Power, where he gives you the news and everything that's going on in bodybuilding up to date. Pretty much, you put up material pretty much every day. You put up content almost every day, right?
I get up several videos a week for sure. Certain times a
Okay,
year, I get more than others, as I do have a day job as well. I
right.
own and operate a commercial diving company, as you know,
Mhm.
which is quite demanding, but I certainly do, get consistent content out there for sure.
He does great contest coverage, and he does great news and up to date stuff that's going on in bodybuilding. So it's actually complete opposite of my channel. My channel is more gossip, bullshit. I have psychopaths like Lee Priest and Greg Valentino on and things like that. It's a little bit different, but in my opinion, and I've said this before on the last time you were here, I think your show is better than Nick Strength and Power, and I don't have any like statistical reason to say that. It's just that you're my friend, so that's it. That's
It's very much appreciated, of course.
yeah,
No, it's
yeah,
very much
yeah.
appreciated, man. It is. And of course you have the entertainment factor, you have that shock factor when it comes to your channel. And it's always a scream when you get guys like that on, It's
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's no holds barred, and there's a lot to be said about that because the characters in bodybuilding do exist that way as well. You got to have that coverage as well, and there's very, very valuable content in what you do. I've always enjoyed your channel. It was the first time I came on here when you invited me on. It was just about a year ago now, I guess, and I was like,
oh
yeah,
god,
this
yeah,
is this is something where I can come on here and I can give a little bit of a different opinion than what I do on my regular channel as
right.
well. Because it's not my typical content, which I really enjoy. So again, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man. It's always going to be the way it is. And what's funny is that I tried to bring a little bit of my humor over to RX when I was covering the Olympia on RX, but it really wasn't going well. What if too big, you know? Like for example,
Over the
we were talking about it was me, Jason Owens, King Kamali, and Armana DB, and they were talking about Urs Kalzinski, and I said Urs sounds like his name is some kind of car rental business, and Armand goes he's German, and without even thinking, I went see Kyle, and it's dead silence. I
I
just
think
thought,
it's understandable why you got that kind. Like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I get it, man. I get. It's
Yeah,
not that it was over their head. It's just that, yeah, yeah.
it's the
I'd
uncomfortable
like to.
joke.
I'm feeling it right now.
Another thing I said, and tell me if it's me, man. I know I'm a little older than you. Sometime in my lifetime, it has become frowned upon to talk about a young, successful man, and how much women are attracted to him. So one of my favorite parts of the show was when Martin Fitzwater won fourth place, and he was so happy. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but he ran over to the other guys and hugged them, and he was jumping, and he was so big smile. He was so happy. And I was like, this guy, how old is he? 26, 27?
He's 27. Yeah.
So I said, King, how much pussy do you think this guy's going to get after the show? Again, dead silence. And even the comments, comments were like the comment was childish, and I'm like, when did it become frowned upon to talk about a young successful guy getting pussy? I don't get it.
Well, you got to look at your audience for one. RX is no stranger in that channel when it comes to certainly
Yeah,
edgy conversation and off the cuff comments, but certain things don't go over as well with a certain audience, and it's just
I
how it is.
guess. Jesus.
That's That's why you started your own channel. You can say whatever you want, whenever you
Yeah.
want, and you certainly do,
Oh, and
but yeah,
that
it's
and then here's another part. There's another part. I totally forgot about this. Armand goes, I don't even think Martin is interested in girls. So I said he's a Fenoy, and I said Fenoic. And he goes, what's Fenoic? I said that's an Italian slang term that means homosexual. And again, nobody laughed. And Armand was like, no, he's straight, he's straight. It's a fucking joke. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's
I
me.
mean, it look,
Yeah,
it was late too, man. It was late here on the
yeah,
East
that's
Coast.
true. That's
It was
true.
late.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You know what I also think it is? I think blue collar guys have a different personality, a different sense of humor. They're more edgy, they're more rough around the edges. They say things that are a little bit more, I mean, literally bonding with blue collar guys is making fun of each other, like poking fun of each other. You know what I mean? Constantly, and everybody, you're trying to, rip each other apart and roll and laughing about it and so on and so forth. But it's all said in good fun. I think you get yourself out of that environment, those kind of jokes don't go over well.
Maybe it's the Canadian factor for myself. I don't know exactly, but no, I can understand where some may pull that off as disrespectful or offensive. I mean, you know it yourself when you say things like that it can come off like that, right? But
Oh
again,
yeah,
that's why
absolutely.
you've started your own channel.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We are here to talk about classic physique. Because I really don't follow classic physique too much. And Kenton is a really up on classic physique. Now, obviously Bumstead won. And it turns out that he is retiring, which I thought was a good move. And the things that he said at the end, very classy, very classy. Even though it baffles me as to why he's so popular, because he doesn't have much of a personality. His workout videos are not motivating. For some reason, I don't know how, but he is extremely popular with young kids. Again, I can't wrap my head around it, but whatever he did right, and everything he touches turns to gold. He's the money man. There's no question about that. And when I saw that, the words that he said at the end, it was sincere. You could see he was choked up. It was sincere. He's really um, good role model for young kids. 100%. That much I could also say about the guy. But what I really wanted to talk about was a couple of things in classic physique. First of all, there were 58 competitors in classic physique. When is the criteria to get to the Olympia for classic different, or did they really have 58 classic physique shows throughout the year?
No, they really did. There are shows that take place because you really only follow the open bodybuilding. It's what you're
Right,
interested in, and that's what you grew up with. And there are many within that scope. A
right.
lot of people have come over to Classic, absolutely true. But the fact of the matter is that Classic shows go on throughout the year that do not have open categories. They do not have they may not have other categories within there as well. And they happen around the globe because the division is so popular. Part of its popularity is because it's easier for competitors to enter as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the open bodybuilding. There's also a business aspect to it that obviously promoters are capitalizing on. So they can put on the shows. They only have to have this division and they can still fill it up. They have the people to show up. They get their money when it comes to the people competing. There are enough competitors for it to be worthwhile for promoters from the standpoint of they get their sanction fees and whatever else goes on with their sponsorships and everything like that. There's just more shows, is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that that's a little bit of an issue when it comes right down to it, because 58 competitors really waters down the field when it comes right down to it. When you have 58 competitors on stage at the Mr. Olympia, and this is supposed to be the best in the world, one would think that it's less elite by having that many competitors. And that's really one of the aspects of looking at having there's a balance that needs to be struck there between allowing competitors to have the opportunity to get to that show, but not having it overwhelming when it comes to fans and judges, I'm sure. I mean, the poor judges, man. And especially once you get past, 16th, they're probably not even looking at these guys very hard, right? Once it comes to the fourth call out, you're in 16th and that's it. So there's got to be some sort of solution there.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what it is. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like any other division in the sense that really after the top 10,
Right.
nobody's really looking that hard. So there's some sort of a balance there. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a little strange. First, I got to give a word from one of my sponsors, Beer League Warriors Apparel, workout clothes. Kenson, if you go on Instagram and you go on, I will send you the link. Beer League Warriors Apparel. They have workout clothing, and it is the dry fit wear. I don't know if you like the dry fit stuff. Um, Mostly shirts, and he's coming out with other stuff. Support small business. The guy just started his workout clothing line. Beer League Warriors Apparel on Instagram. Just DM him. He's working on the website right now. Good quality, good prices, support small business. Don't buy from Nike or Adidas this week. Buy from Beer League Warriors Apparel. Believe me, it's a hell of a lot worth it than giving your money to a billion-dollar conglomerate. Anyway, getting back to Classic Physique. Um, here's another thing I have to. Does the Olympia pay for everybody's airfare and hotel stay? I would think with 58 competitors that they would not, because that means that's a lot of money they're shelling out. And if they good or do they? I don't even know.
Well, honestly, I don't know either. But if they are, yeah, you're right. That is a lot of money. If they are not, I'm sure that I know for a fact that they have deals for competitors when it comes to, the hotel and making sure that it's as easy as possible for them to access services at a reasonable rate. But when it comes to if they still pay it or not, I really don't know.
Yeah. Now here's the other question I have for Classic Physique, and then we'll actually get into the actual competition of the Olympia this year. I understand winning your first pro show and getting on the Olympia is an achievement. It's unbelievable. And if I was ever at that level and I won a show, I'll bet your ass, no matter what place I would land, I would be there. But after out of 58 guys, there has to be repetitive people coming that have won several years in a row. When does reality hit somebody that if you come in, let's say 47th place, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to do better this year. I'm going to win another show, and then maybe I'll make it to 40th place or 38th place. When does reality hit that the money I have to spend on food, drugs, uh, hotel stay, airfare, I have to believe majority of the people don't have sponsors. And then you say, look, it's just not worth it. I understand that I'm on the Olympia stage, but I've been on there once or twice, and I'm just not at that elite level. And I'm just going to go there and waste my time and money. It doesn't make any sense. When does that come into play? Because you would think out of 58 people, somebody would say, you know what? It's really just not that worth it.
I can't confirm this 100% because, look, like I said earlier, I am not much different from the average bodybuilding fan when it comes to the fact that after the top 10, unless
Right.
you are an extreme personality or have an extreme social media following in the bodybuilding space or fitness space, I really don't know exactly who it is that could be there. But with that being said, to answer your question, I guess, when does reality set in? Well, for these guys, I would say that from 15th to 58th, okay, these are young competitors, probably in their first or second Olympia, okay? There is no reality setting in at that point, except for the fact of the reality of we are at the Olympia.
Right.
They will spend the money, they will go in the hole for it. And a lot of these guys, I don't know if a lot of these guys don't have sponsors or not. There are many, many sponsored athletes out there that would get a few $100 to get their airfare paid and get a deal on a hotel because not only that, they have several athletes at this point. I think that most people that make it to the Olympia probably do have sponsors at least, so they're, breaking even because they're going and representing these companies, even though they don't do extremely well. They still have those pictures to put on their social media that they are at the Olympia. Plus, from a personal training standpoint, that's part of the business of bodybuilding that has very little to do with, sponsors. That's something where they know they're going to make money. later. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. When it comes to the reality, these guys still got stars in their eyes, man. And they don't see it as a loss in particular when it comes to your first or second show.
Mhm.
Now, as for how many guys are below 16th and continue to compete year after year and then don't move up the ranks and just keep doing it, I don't know how many of those guys are out there, but I would believe that after a certain number of years of continuously finishing at the bottom, you really need to look at yourself and say, just like anything else that you pursue, what am I doing here? I keep making it to the Olympia, so that could be an achievement. I guess it would be difficult to really say unless I was really in that mind space. But for most of the competitors, I would think that they're young guys within the first couple of years of their career, and they're on the Olympia stage. It's like you said at the beginning. I'm going, and I'm going to have the time of my life.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. It's just that, like, I was thinking about it because I was actually, they had the prejudging on in the gym, and I was watching it in the gym, Signature Fitness in Jersey. It's if you're ever in Jersey, Kenton, it's a great gym. But anyway,
Cool.
and I
Yeah.
had it on the big screen. And I'm like, how many fucking competitors are there? And there's one guy sitting next to me said there's 58. And I was like, holy shit. Right. And because I remember my last show in 2014, I did the Brooklyn Grand Prix and I won the Brooklyn Grand Prix. Right. And then I wanted to go
Okay.
I went to talk to a couple of trainers. Right.
Sure.
And I was already 38 at that point. And both trainers were like, okay, well, I see you're very conservative with the drugs. We have to change that. Um, they wanted both guys wanted me to go on insulin, and they wanted me to either do the Masters Nationals or the Masters class at the one that's in New York every year. Jesus Christ, for Team Universe.
Uh-huh.
And I went home and I, talked a bit about it with my wife and thought about it. And when I was on that stage, I'm 5'8", and I was a light heavyweight, and I was 181 pounds. And I said to myself, I was 38, and I was talking about my wife, and I was like, all right, you know, here's most likely what's going to happen. Maybe I'll put 10 pounds of muscle on, and I'll be, still a light heavyweight because it's 198 is the limit, right? And I'm 5'8". I'm gonna spend all this money, put more drugs in my body that I don't want to put in, spend all this money on hotel, no sponsors, uh, airfare if I need to, if I'm going to Pittsburgh, because I'm sure shit ain't driving. Or if they have the Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh, I believe every year. Yeah. I have to pay the coach, the food, everything. And after some
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. Sure. There's a lot to
after
consider. Yeah.
after some time, I think after like a few days, I was like, I'm not doing it. Doesn't make sense. Why to put another plastic trophy back there to maybe break the top five if I'm lucky, And believe me, I tried putting weight on the last few years before that. I mean, it was just shoveling food into me. I was never always a big dude. I just always had a nice physique or whatever. And I said, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I got too many things that I need to worry about my home, my wife, my career, so on and so forth. I'm not doing it. It's over. I'm not doing this. I'm not putting certainly the truth of the matter is the real factor was two real things. One, insulin. I didn't want to really do insulin. And the other factor was when I went to Team Universe in 2000, I believe it was 2013 or 14. I don't remember. But that was the year John Meadows won. And I looked at what John Meadows looked like on stage, and I just had a moment of reality. And I was like, I will never look like that. No matter what I do, I will never fucking look like that ever. And that was like when I was like, all right, you know what? We're done here. I don't want to waste my time anymore. I'd rather worry about making money than spending money on a hobby that's not going to take me anywhere. And plus, I wasn't by myself anymore, right? There is a lot of people. And the reason why I bring it up in Classic Physique is because there's 58 people, 58 competitors. There's a lot of people that really need to like reevaluate themselves and be like, okay, look, this was a fun run, but I'm getting to the point where I really have to reevaluate my life and my priorities. And like I said, and like you said, if they're in the first couple of years of their career and just making it to the Olympia is incredible, I get it. I fully get it. But there has to come a point, and I think there's a lot of people in the bodybuilding world, in the fitness world, that don't want to hang it up. I see it with women. I see it a lot with women. I see it with guys. I have a friend, God bless him, Vinny Galante. He's 50 in his 50s, still competing, turned pro, like, I don't know, when he was 40. And he trains in the master circuit. Master circuit does not pay much, if anything at all. Dorian Haywood won the Masters, I believe in Daytona, and he won the overall. He's going, and he did it because he wants to go to the Masters Olympia next year. And his prize money was $200.
Mm-hmm.
And as sooner or later you have to get to the point where it's like, all right, doesn't make sense anymore. But I noticed that there's a lot of people that translate what we're trying to say to stop hating on my dream. I don't need the negativity in my life, and so on and
Okay.
so forth.
Oh, okay. Okay. So here's the thing. I understand where you're coming from when it comes to, and I just switched my microphone. I hope it doesn't sound different. I
No,
had to
actually, it
put on
doesn't at
my
all.
noise can. Okay. Okay, perfect. You spoke of yourself and your bodybuilding journey, right?
Mm,
You eventually came to a point where you were 38 and you said, well, this really isn't worth it to me anymore.
mm.
When it comes to the 16 to 58 in the Olympia, well, these guys have made it. In a very large sense of the word, John.
Yes,
These
you're right.
guys
You're right.
have made it. Now, how did they get there? You said you weren't willing to do things like the insulin and you felt like you ate a lot of food and things like that. These guys are willing to do it. They're not just willing to do it, they've done it in order to
Mm,
get there, right?
mm.
So I'm going to push back on you a little bit when it comes to
No,
that
go right
because
ahead.
there is no the reality doesn't have to set in because these guys have made it. It's a totally different reality to say,
Mm,
well, I'm not going to make the top 5 in this show in New York. It's a whole different thing to say, I'm not going to place above top 16 at the fucking Mr. Olympia, dude.
yeah,
You
good
know what I
point.
mean?
Very good point. Yes, very good point.
That's a whole other thing altogether.
Right.
These guys are willing to put their health on the line. They're sacrificing the things that people like me and you simply will not sacrifice, like family, friends, potentially a career, because I'm sure that there's guys that end up broke after, 10 years of trying to compete and never make it there.
Yeah, right.
It's a risk. They take the risk and some of them reap the rewards.
Right.
The guys at the Olympia reap the rewards, even if you do finish in the 16 to 58.
No, great point. Absolutely. There's no question about it. I did not kind of look at it that way, but you're 100% right. They're younger. They've turned pro. They've won pro shows, and now they're at the Olympia. In a sense, they have made it. Absolutely. Totally, totally, and firmly agree with that. All right, so let's move on. So Bumstead retires. Okay. You ask any 19-year-old kid in the gym who's Mr. Olympia, he says Bumstead. And I go, no, he's not Mr. Olympia. He's Classic Physique Olympia. It's a big difference. They have no clue. They think he is Mr. Olympia. They think he's the picture of bodybuilding. They compare him to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm like, you guys have no clue what you're talking about. And like I said earlier, and these things can't be disputed. He's not a very motivational speaker. When you listen to him talk, he's very bland. Um, he is not very motivational when you watch him work out. It's very slow and methodical. It's not like watching Hottie or Branch or Johnny Jackson when you watch Hottie train and you're like, holy shit, I want to get to the gym now. He is a good role model, but usually those are what young people don't look up to. He is a great role model, family man, young man, smart with his money, business, classy. But what was it that resonated with the young audience with him? Because I can't really wrap my head around what resonated with the young audience. I mean, he literally has 20 million something followers on Instagram.
I think the last I looked, it was 25.4, which is unbelievable.
You're a celebrity. You're a celebrity.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're a massive celebrity at that
Yeah.
point. What resonates with the young fans is, like you said, he is like being a good role model is one thing. It's not what he says or how he trains so much as that everything, literally everything that he puts out there is so genuine. He's not afraid to be vulnerable on camera is the other thing. He does really put all of that out there. Even when he's doing his preparations for the Olympia, he's still putting videos out there about the struggles that he's going through mentally in order to get to the point of being the best in the world, the pressure of being the best in the world, All of those things are addressed, where celebrities of his caliber typically will not address those things. They want to appear superhuman. They will not put that information out there. Chris is at a point in his career where he felt that all of that was just going to be laid onto the table. And if people didn't like it, that's the other thing, is that his response to anybody that would have ever had anything negative to say on him, certainly not now because he's the most likable guy in the world, but even if there was anybody at first that had anything negative to say about him, it wasn't really addressed. You know, he wasn't triggered. He didn't have anything to put out there except the most positive, chill vibes in the world. He was genuinely himself, and he remains genuinely himself. I really, really believe that when it comes to Chris Bumstead. So how that resonates is one thing. And the other thing, John, is that sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time, making the right moves with the right physique.
Right.
Some of it's got to be just bullshit luck. And he says it himself, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Luck. Luck has a lot to do with it. Capitalizing on opportunities. I mean, what's the definition of luck, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
I think that Chris really just capitalized on that as well. To get to 25.4 million, I don't know anybody that could sit down and strategize that, no matter how much money you have, no matter how good you are, no matter the team behind you. Call it what you will. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the
Mhm.
man is insanely genuine, and that really, really rubs off on people, which is what brought him to the point that he's at today. Winning 6 Olympias, of course, certainly, and setting the standard in a brand new division as well. He just exploded. He
Right.
exploded.
Great points. All great points. Absolutely. And now that you explain it like that, I agree with like everything you just said. But also, how much is it also that the classic physiques look more attainable to a younger man as opposed to the bodybuilding guys who look like absolute monsters? Because when you're a little younger than me, but when I was growing up, being huge, every guy wanted to be huge. It was the 1980s. You had, Hulk Hogan and Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Dorian Yates was Mr. Olympia. Before that, it was Lee Haney. And you had guys would be watching, the videotape of Blood and Guts, or they'd be watching, uh, what's the Pumping Iron. Every guy wanted to be jacked. Now it doesn't seem so much anymore. It seems like they kind of just want to look like an athlete. How much of the fact that Chris Bumstead's physique being the best in a classic physique, which is a physique that I think younger kids can resonate more with as opposed to the open bodybuilders. How much of it is that as opposed to what you previously said?
Go back and look at the era under which bodybuilding really became popular. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Pumping Iron, 1976, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And how the physiques progressed from then. When you got into the 80s, you had a guy like Lee Haney, similar but bigger. Then you got into the 90s, where the mass monster era started when Dorian Yates hit that stage. Then, and I'm massively summarizing this here, but generally speaking, you get into the 2000s where you started seeing that continue. 2010s where things really got out of hand when it came to the mass monsters, because not only did the size of the muscle increase, but the waistlines increased. Then you get into the late 2010s and then the early and where we're at now. The reason that Classic is so popular is because it really does embody the best of what we want to see, I feel, in the open division, but also it's more obtainable, like you said, for some of these younger guys. It's easier to relate with something like that. So it really is a generational thing in bodybuilding as to why the division became so popular. Yes, sure, it's more attainable. One could argue actually that, I mean, yeah, is Chris Bumstead as big as the open guys? No, but is it attainable for the regular person? Absolutely not.
No, it just
You know,
perceives it that way, but no, it's not.
it certainly does. But Classic influenced the Open in the sense that it took the best of what you had from the golden era of bodybuilding, and it made competitors go to a place, and of course the judging and things like that. Basically, it took the midsections, and I feel it just put more of an emphasis on them, where we're at the place where we're at now. When did vacuums get popular again? When Classic came around. When did you start seeing vacuums come back into the Open? when Classic came around, right?
That's right.
So it was a big influence on Open in that sense. And it probably helped create some of our favorite physiques that we see today. I find that we're actually getting to more of a point now, and this is a little off topic, but when it comes to Open, there's a lot of commentators out there that I associate with that actually think the vacuum is being overdone now in a lot of Open competitors. It's actually becoming too much. But I think competitors are also seeing that they may do a vacuum, but they also crunch down on the abs unless their
Right.
abs are really terrible. But it's another tool that allows guys to just control their midsection too. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but that's really how I see people wanting to gravitate toward having a physique more like Classic. And it's less work, it's less on your health. That's
Right.
probably a part of it as well. You know, in this day and age, people didn't give a shit about their health back then in the 70s and 80s because the knowledge just wasn't there. It certainly is now. We've seen many bodybuilders die, you know, especially in that late 90s, early 2000s into 2010s era because of potentially,
Yeah, pushing the
allegedly,
envelope. Yeah.
over. Exactly, right?
Absolutely.
Could be
Yeah.
another
No.
reason that Chris Bumstead is so popular is because of that autoimmune disease. And he, you know, specifically says that he's not the one to push a ton of compounds because of that, right?
Right.
Now he's looking after his health. And again, he's a good role model.
No, you're right. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And he is a great role model. And he's a classy guy. And he's a family man. And it's everything that I say a man should be. With the exception of you should have a little bit of a violent edge to you. So nobody knows not to mess with you. Right. But anyway, that's another
I
story.
think there should be a competitive nature. And that's
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
things that we talked about. It's kind of another conversation of
Yeah.
bodybuilding is a little, frankly, to be very frank about it, maybe a little too nice these days. You know,
Oh
maybe a little
God, tell me
too
about it.
nice.
Well, yeah, we'll get on to another topic, but I agree
Yes.
because I don't know how Derek Lunsford can have the same coach and training partner that is his direct competition. I don't know how he does it. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would want us
And
versus
you
them.
would never see, yeah, you would never see like Phil Heath and Kai Green. I don't think anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like Phil Heath and Kai Green never would train together
No,
when it came to their rivalry.
it
Like,
was Phil and Ramrod, whatever the hell his name is, and Kai and Farah. That was it. It was us against them. And that's the way I would want it. I wouldn't want to fuck it. But anyway, whatever. It's a whole different story.
yeah,
But anyway,
that's right. That's right.
because I remember I was sitting, this was several years ago, and I was at a bodybuilding show, and I was sitting in the audience, and the guest poster was John De La Rosa. And John De La Rosa is maybe an inch shorter than me, and he is just on his off season. He is just massive human
Oh
being.
yeah, yeah.
And he comes out, and he looks like just a silverback. It's ridiculous, right? And this young kid in front of me, maybe in his early 20s, I hear him say, "Oh, I would never want to look like that." And I'm sitting there going, "Really? My whole life, that's what I wanted to look like." And everybody I grew up with wanted to look like that. Do you know what I mean? And it baffles me a little bit because it's like, why wouldn't you want to look like the biggest, strongest, baddest motherfucker, right? Because to me, it kind of embodies the whole idea of being masculine, being big and strong and right? Kind of like what we saw in the 70s into the early 90s with the movies and the wrestling and the so on and so forth. But and that's when I kind of started thinking. I'm like, well, I get these kids just don't resonate with these big dudes anymore. They just don't. They don't. You know. They don't. They don't look up to that. They don't admire it the way my generation did, and that's basically what it comes down to. So all the points you made, incredibly valid. I didn't think of it to think of those points that I made myself. But this is why I have you on
Yeah,
because
you
you're
know,
a
John,
coach.
with one other point there, you know,
Sure.
when you talk about the young kids, and this is what you really were looking to achieve when you were younger. Well, when you are younger, you're more impressionable as well. You don't know it, but you're looking for influence. What was
Absolutely.
out there for you to even, you know, digest? Well, it was only the open, right?
Right.
If you were coming up these days, it may have been something. Sometimes it's just the first thing that tends to hook somebody, right?
Hmm.
Maybe it was Chris Bumstead was the first person that someone saw. 16-year-old in one place, 16-year-old in another place these days. First person you see is Andrew Jack.
Hmm.
Now this is who I like. This is what really hooked me because bodybuilders get that question all the time. what was the first bodybuilder that you really loved? You know, oftentimes for an open guy, it's somebody that was in the open. These days, it would probably be, you know, someone that was maybe more classic or something like that. So I think that it's just the potential's there for the fact that you didn't have it when you were younger could be
Hmm.
one thing. However, I'm closer to the same era as you. For me growing up, there was no classic either, right? I'm 36 years old. The
Okay.
open is what I have always always loved. It is my number one love in bodybuilding. It will always be my number one love in bodybuilding. But what I do enjoy about Classic, I have a great appreciation for it because of the fact that I think that it really made the open turn back to having the aesthetic qualities of a physique with the increased muscle mass in order to show absolute perfection because the bubble gut era was just not that. The
It's
classic
true.
really came into existence because of that. It was almost out of a necessity when you think about it, right?
Mm.
That's one of the reasons that I really, really do enjoy classic because I think it saved the open to a degree. To a degree.
Right. I could definitely see that. It also brought a hell of a lot more money into the industry and made it a lot more mainstream. You have a lot more sponsors, a lot more people know about these guys because, it's a little bit more mainstream, like a Bumstead and so on and so forth. All
That's
right,
right.
let's get on to what happened this weekend. So Bumstead wins. He retires. Classy, really classy exit. Tremendous person as a role model, 100%. Um, so the question that everybody wants to know uh, is who is going to be the next guy that is going to fill his shoes? Will there be another guy that is as dominant as him? I mean, my opinion, I don't think there's going to be another guy that's going to be as dominant as him because the Olympia seems to be not what it used to be as far as you have to knock the champ out. It seems to be now that if you come in a little bit off and somebody's better, you're going to lose. Where it wasn't that way during the Phil Heath era or the Dorian era or the Ronnie era, where now it is like leave the door open that much and somebody else comes in that much better, you're done. And we saw that with Derek. So I'm assuming you're not going to get another Bumstead for a very long time in Classic. But what's your opinion on it?
I think that you can look at the current environment of the open class and have a similar forecast when it comes to what the division could evolve into. You're right. There is not going to be another Chris Bumstead, just like we have not seen another Phil Heath. The Olympia title has changed hands many times in the last number of years here in the open division. In Classic, I really don't see anybody that's going to carry the torch of being a multiple time champion because I think that there are competitors that are still very comparable to each other in Classic. Nobody really stands out as being the next person to really dominate the division. We all thought that it was going to be Wesley Vissers. However, this past weekend, and myself included, my favorite classic physique still to this day is Wesley Vissers. I think that he is the embodiment of representing the golden era of bodybuilding coupled with this new modern era of classic physique, which is why he calls it specifically classic bodybuilding. I
Mhm.
really enjoyed that with Wesley, but he's just not there as of yet. Clearly, after his Olympia showing. Now, if he came in with his Arnold Classic look, maybe that would be different, but he didn't. He still has improvements that he needs to make in order to be within this era of the modern classic physique division. He's just not there yet. When you do look at the guys that I wish he was, but he's just not. When you look at the guys that finished top five this year, well, Mike Sommerfeld came out of nowhere. He was eighth last year
Mhm.
in classic physique. Nobody saw this guy coming.
Right.
We can't digest that information right now. Urs Kalitsinski taking third place, which I predicted correctly, and many people told me I was crazy. You can't really you can't assess that right now either because Urs was not at his absolute best. His tan wasn't great, and he I think could have been a little bit tighter. But he doesn't stand out from either Mike Sommerfeld or Ramon Dino second to fourth, which I also predicted Ramon correctly, and everybody told me I was crazy for that as well.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Ramon wasn't at his best either, but we have seen Ramon at his best a number of times throughout the last, number of years here. Breon Ainsley is not going to be the champion again. Where is it going to go from here? I really don't know, but I think that's part of what makes it a little bit exciting, a little
Mhm.
bit unpredictable. I think that there's a certain standard set now that Chris has been there for a certain number of years. I think that when it comes to the 2025 Olympia, that it could go one of two ways. Either they're going to say, well, nobody really had these attributes that we had before, so now we need to set a new standard, or these competitors are going to be compared against each other and their previous versions. I think, when it comes to just the human being factor of being a judge, of saying, well, these guys were this good last year, how good are they now? But
Mhm.
there's not enough time in order to digest what just took place. I mean, how do you like Mike Sommerfeld came out of nowhere? I have no idea. Is he the next in line to win the Classic Physique Olympia? And is he really the representation of the physique that Classic Physique is really going to be in the future? I don't know at this point. I
Mhm.
really don't. So it makes it exciting, but I think that within the next year, when we see guys come out and compete and see some improvements as well, I think, from guys that took the top five here, if we really see significant improvement, that might be a little bit more telling. But until we get to the Olympia next year, there's going to be a lot of question marks in the classic physique division. For me, that makes it really exciting. For others, hmm, there's going to be questions that are not going to be answered until then.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think you're right. I don't think there's going to be another dominant classic physique Olympia champion like
No,
Bumstead. But let's talk about the three guys that you named. Actually, Breon. Let's talk about the all right. The first guy,
sure.
Mike Sommerfeld, he came in second. And then last year you said that he was in eighth. What did this guy do to improve to make him jump up 7 spots? That's significant in the Olympia, especially the top eight. That's significant.
I remember when I first saw Mike Sommerfeld in 2002. He took fifth place at the Olympia that year. And I looked at this guy and I was like, holy shit, like this guy is classic through and through. He blew my mind then and he came out of nowhere. The same way that really he did this year. The improvements that he made, I think that he improved his posing is one thing.
Mhm.
I think that his legs have come up in size, which he also shows his legs better. Like I said, his posing is
You did
definitely
you
better.
said 2002 or 2022?
Or sorry, 2002, fuck me. 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say
Yes.
this guy's been around a long time. It's okay.
No, no, no. He's not that good. But yeah, the leg size I think is definitely one thing. He had a little bit more detail through the quads here. He's been working with his coach a little bit longer. Um, but really, I'm still trying to analyze this myself as to the exact reasons why this guy came in second. I mean, his proportions of I guess I don't really need to assess it that much when it comes right down to it. He had
Mhm.
fantastic proportions, clean lines. He was conditioned, but not overly conditioned for the classic physique division. He had a great X frame. He had great flow from top to bottom. Um, his color was fantastic as well. He had a lot of things going for him that way because Urs Kalicinski did not have great color, and he stacked up very well with Chris. It's not that, and Ramon was off. That's another thing is Ramon was off.
Right. Well, all right. Let's go to Breon because Breon was a classic physique champ before Bumstead. Um, Here's my opinion. I might be wrong.
Hmm.
I prefer his physique because to me he looks more like a bodybuilder, right? I think that that's really not what they want in classic. There's a different standard. They don't want just a small bodybuilder. They want something different. Am I accurate on that?
You are especially accurate on that when you look at Breon from the back.
Right.
Breon from the back looks like a bodybuilder. There's a reason why this guy was planning on going to 212 because he knows that when he turns around, especially, man, his back, he had the craziest back in the entire lineup as far as I'm concerned,
Mhm.
including Bumstead, including Bumstead. He does look more like a bodybuilder. He's got really really defined biceps, but they're not overly peaky. They're very round, they're very full. I think that through the arms he looks like a bodybuilder. I think that his legs actually I think came up, which is pretty crazy to think at his age. He does look more like a bodybuilder, but he presents himself as classic. It really comes down to a posing thing. Andrew Jack had a similar thing in the open where he was hitting a front double bicep. He was slightly tilted. He was raising up one hip as opposed to another. One arm was cocked down as opposed to another. But when you saw him at the Texas Pro this year, he was posing more like a bodybuilder. From side to side, everything was even when it came to the horizontal axis.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that Breon, when he was planning on going to 212, I would watch him pose. He was still posing like a classic guy. I think his heart is just in it when it comes to classic, although he does have, I agree, bodybuilding aspects to his physique.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, I kind of agree too, but it is impressive at his age that he's still, well, he came in what, fifth or sixth?
He came in fifth. He's 44 years old.
Yeah, that's very impressive for 44 years old. Um to come in because that's an extremely competitive lineup. And the other guy I want to talk about is Dino. Um he's a guy who came in second and looked like he really dropped the ball. Now, in prejudging, what exactly happened? Did he spill over or was he just holding water and just was sweating? Because to me, it looked like he spilled over because it was a horror show. His tan from sweating was completely running down his back, his chest, and even Breon was trying to help him, saying, looking at him, going, "You got to smooth that out." And the more he did it,
That's right.
the worse it got. The more he tried to the worse it got. What happened? Do you think he spilt over, or do you think he was just holding water and it started coming out at that point?
No, he was definitely holding water. I don't think that it was that he wasn't lean enough. I think he spilled over as well.
Yeah.
He didn't have those cuts in the quads that we usually see from Ramon. He didn't have those striations through the shoulders. He didn't even have the. I don't think he even really had the fullness through the arms. So I don't know what issue would have been there because I mean you would think if you would spill over that you would still have an amount of fullness to you, but he didn't even have
Mhm.
that. He looked like he was just flattened out through the arms from what he typically is. He There was definitely mistakes that were made there. The biggest one was definitely the fact that he just started sweating profusely
Bad.
on
Yeah.
stage. And to me, the detail in the quads just were not there. But part of it is just the fact that the reason that I had Urs ahead of him is because Urs is a younger guy that I thought would make more progress based on that. And the fact that he just said, you know what, this year, I'm not putting the pressure on myself. I'll make some videos. I'm not going to be putting out physique updates. And I think he had less of a spotlight on him that way as well. The other thing is, when I really think about it, the Brazilian fans, man, I mean, they stand behind their competitors. There's no
Oh,
question,
big time.
but 100%. But to that effect, they are watching constantly. They
Hmm.
are looking to see what these guys are doing. And that's not a negative thing, but the spotlight is always on you when it comes to Ramon. And maybe part of that got to him too when it came to
The nerves.
being
Yeah, absolutely.
you're a representative of your entire country in that sense. I mean, who else was there to represent Brazil at that level at the Olympia? So, and that's just my own speculation. I had my own speculation about putting Urs in third. I had nothing to go off of there because I couldn't see any physique updates, but
Right.
that could be part of it. But the fact of the matter is, there were definitely mistakes made by himself and Chris Aceto. There's absolutely no denying that. If they did everything right, then he wouldn't have been sweating profusely on stage. He would have had those cuts in the quads, and he wouldn't have had his worst look that we've seen in probably, I don't know, 3, 4 years,
Yeah.
probably.
To his credit, he came back at night like a champion. He had his color was much better. He was a little bit harder, and he performed well. And he did it with class. So to his credit, a lot of guys would have just fell apart at that point. And as a matter of fact, I have brought up that question to the panel at the beginning of the RX Muscle show live feed. I said because I asked both King and Jason Ons who have been on that level. When you make a mistake that bad, how bad does that hurt you mentally that you have to come back? People are talking about you, being number two, possibly winning, so on and so forth.
That's a good question. That's a really
How
good question.
bad, does it hurt you mentally to come back that night and have to perform and have people look at you while you massively drop the ball in front of the entire world? I mean, it has to be extremely difficult. And Orange's answer was great, but I think it's easily said than done. He's like, look, you made mistakes. The only thing you could do is forget about it. Shit happened, and move on from it. Well, I think, which is true, but I think it's easily said and done. Maybe some people could handle it more, but I think a lot of people are hard on themselves, especially in their bodybuilding, where they go back and they go, God damn it, I can't believe I fucked that up the one fucking night, the one day, and the whole year, and I screwed that up. But to his credit, he did come back, he did perform, he did fix his tan, he did do a little better, but it is what it is, and he did go out there with a smile on his face and did it do his job. So his credit, he did that. But
He did. You're 100% right about that. He was much better at night, and that's credit where credit's due. In fact, when he was announced fourth, as you know, the crowd booed, and he said, "No, guys, no, no, no. Like this is where I placed." He took it very humbly, and I think that was probably, although it was his worst physique that we saw in a number of years. When it came to him graciously taking that fourth place, I actually think that was his best performance, and I respected him as a competitor massively after seeing that because he could have been down on himself. He could have got up there like Derek Lunsford and had I mean, look, Derek was broken, man. He
big
was
time.
broken.
Yeah.
Ramon just got up and he was like, hey, man, I'm just going to come back better, you know?
Yeah. It is not a good look if you don't show up or if you can't control your emotions on stage. It is definitely not a good look. People remember it, people see it. And bodybuilders have a very bad reputation of kind of being too fragile in that sense. I know plenty of pro
These
bodybuilders that,
days,
yeah, absolutely. I know plenty of pro bodybuilders that didn't do well in the prejudging on pro stages, and they went, you know what, screw it, I'm not coming back for the finals. Even though you have sponsors, even though you spent all this money, and it's just not a good look. You don't look like you're an athlete with character. But Dino did not do that. And he prevailed, and you got to give him his respect and his props for that, which is funny because, years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about it. We would just expect it because nobody would just walk off the stage, right? But last question about Classic. You brought
okay.
him up before. Wesley Vissers. A lot of people were saying he was overlooked. Was he overlooked, or did he just not bring the package that he needed to bring?
He did not bring the package that he needed to bring. I can be very frank about that. He was not the same competitor that he was when he won those two Arnold Classics. I don't know why. He has not said why yet. I'm waiting for him to come out with that information. But he just was not the same that he was when he took his two Arnold Classic victories.
Mhm.
That's all.
That's it. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about bodybuilding is angles. So what I mean by that is they see a picture of, a guy like Wesley Vissers in the front, and they're like, God, he looked incredible from the front. But what people don't understand is you're not just judged from the front, you're judged from the side, you're judged from the back, you're judged from the other side. You have multiple poses in each angle, and it's weighed on who is basically the most complete bodybuilder is going to be the winner. We also saw that with Hadi, but I think a lot of people get thrown off when they see, I think a general bodybuilding fan, if that exists, get thrown off when they see one picture and they go, how did this guy lose? Not compared to anybody and so on and so forth. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that with this weekend with Wesley, with Hadi, with Andrew Jacked, and they were all front poses. They're all either front relaxed or a front double by. When you see Andrew Jacked in a front relaxed, you say to yourself, "Oh, that's Mr. Olympia." Until he turns to the side, and you go, "Nope, that's not Mr. Olympia." And I think also a lot of people choose with emotion. Like that's my favorite bodybuilder, or he's from my country and he's going to win. That's it. And if he doesn't win, I don't. That he should win. So again, what is your opinion on the actual thought process of the fan when because you and I both know these things happen all the time.
Sure. Yeah. That could be part of it when it comes to, the fans wanting to stand behind their countrymen or their favorite bodybuilder. Absolutely. But for Wesley specifically, it's interesting when it comes to the journey of Wesley Vissers to date, and it's especially even more interesting based on this placing from Wesley. And I'll explain what I mean about that in a second here. But look at where Wesley has really progressed from when he first started getting popular to now. The actual popularity of Wesley Vissers began at the Mr. Golden Era contest with Nick Strength and Power. I don't know
Oh,
if you know
that's
that Nick.
right.
Do
Yeah, I
you remember
remember
that?
that.
Wesley was
Absolutely.
the winner. He won that contest.
Yeah.
And he turned a lot of people's heads because Nick has a huge audience, right? That was where Wesley really started his journey as
Hmm.
a social media, star. But Wesley, when he first started competing, he really wanted to show his version of what he considered to be the ultimate classic physique. Like I said, he specifically refers to it as classic bodybuilding and not classic physique. He would consistently come in with conditioning that you would typically see from the golden era of bodybuilding. Think Arnold
Hmm.
Schwarzenegger, think Lou Ferrigno. It's very easy to look back at pumping iron and say, yes, this is it, the golden era. Well, that's not the reality of modern day classic physique. So Wesley would consistently place in the lower tier of pro shows, and when he did start making it to the Olympia, he would still place on that lower end, and the judges would consistently tell him, you need to be leaner. And
Hmm.
for a number of seasons, my understanding is that Wesley was just like, fuck that. I'm going to keep doing my thing because to me, this is what classic is. And he was trying to set, and I shouldn't say he was trying to set his own standard, but I think that he was continuing with his journey of what he wanted the proper embodiment of classic physique to be. However, he wasn't being rewarded for that. At one point, he finally said, okay, the judges want me leaner. I'm going to get leaner. So now that's where he started moving up, combined with his very classic lines and his classic physique as a total physique from top to bottom. Well, now he started getting recognized because he did put on some more size. He needed that as well, but he started getting lean enough.
Hmm.
The problem with Wesley now, and I think he would have done much better at this Olympia if he had really more size, is the thing that he needs to work on now. That's really what it comes down to. This guy, like, you can't train for the type of physique that he has, just like any other bodybuilder. He's
Yeah.
very, very gifted in that sense, but he needs more size in the legs. His legs look like toothpicks compared to these other guys, man, frankly. And that's no
Yeah.
disrespect. Like I said, Wesley's one of my favorites out there, but you put him on stage next to the best of the best. Bigger legs from Breon, bigger legs from Mike Sommerfeld, Chris, with no question. More depth from the back is the other thing.
Hmm.
The insertions, the overall flow, the detail, it's there, but he just needs more. And he's criticized for his waistline. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see where people are coming from. But that's what it really comes down to for Wesley. He needs more size in the legs. He needs more depth from the back, and maybe just more overall size in general, but
Hmm.
specifically the legs and the depth from the back. But that's really what happened, I think, with Wesley. Partly he was off, and partly he still has work to do.
Wow. Okay. All right. Listen, Kenton, uh you have a tremendous amount of input when it comes to bodybuilding, especially classic physique, which I respect greatly. So what is the future of EP09? What's happening in the future with your podcast? Is it's making strides, man. It's growing.
It's business as usual for me, man. I'm going to keep pumping out interviews. I'm going to keep doing the news. I'm going to keep putting out my insights here, and I'm going to keep doing the live streams. That's what really got me to where I am now. And look, there's still plenty more to do, but I have been enjoying it immensely, immensely, since I started doing this channel. The whole reason that I started this channel was because I didn't have an outlet for, I'm actually, honestly, to be completely honest with you, like I'm getting a little bit of chills right now because I still feel that way when it comes to this platform. I started this channel because I did not have an outlet for my love of professional bodybuilding. I needed to talk bodybuilding. Nobody at the gym was really into it anymore. All the
That's
guys
right.
that were moved away or did their thing or whatever. I needed something. I have a friend, Derek McDonald. He was always a competitor growing up at the provincial level here, and he did some regional stuff. But I was talking to him about it, and I was like, man, I just think that I could do, like, I looked around at the playing field too as well, and I was like, I think I could just do a good job of this. I really think, like, for what guys are putting out there, I was like, I think I can really put something out there that's visually pleasing with my own opinion, and just really push the envelope when it comes to some of the editing and stuff like that. That's kind of my thing. Um, that's where the future is for me, man. I want to keep pushing my content. The goal for me is to keep putting in something a little bit more as my content continues so that it continuously pushes the envelope for myself, my audience, the competitors that all of these things combined. That's really what the future is for me. I'm going to keep this going until the fucking wheels fall off. That's for sure. And being able to do things like this, like coming on your channel, other channels that I get invited on, this was part of the journey that I wasn't expecting, to be able to talk to some of these. I didn't plan on doing a podcast when I first started. I was just going to do the news like Nick, that's all I was going to do. So it's continuously evolved, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it's going to take me for things that I may not expect at this point as well.
Well, brother, it's certainly working. Whatever you're doing is working. So keep it up, man, because your channel is exploding. And I'm a big fan. I prefer watching you from Nick. And I always joke, I'm like, it's just because you're my friend. But the truth of the matter is, I think you do a better job. That's my opinion. So
No, thank you
EP09,
very much, man.
of
Well,
course.
listen, you being invited on RX Muscle, I just got to give you some credit for that too. I mean, it's a crazy panel that they have on there, but it is an exclusive panel. That's one
Yeah.
of the biggest bodybuilding channels out there. When Rich Piana passed away, God rest his soul, RX is where I went for my content. And for you to be invited on there, like that's big, man. So hats
Thank
off
you,
to you as
my
well.
friend. Thank you.
You're pushing the content, you're putting it out there, very consistent, and you don't pull any punches, and I
That's
respect
for
that.
sure. Thank you, brother. I appreciate. Yeah, that for the live feed from the prejudging got over 100,000 views, and the live feed from, the live feed from the Saturday night, the Open, got almost 300,000 views. We're like 287,000 views. That's fucking crazy, But yeah,
It's
man,
a
it was
lot, man.
exciting. It was exciting to be up there with King and Jason Ons and Armand, and when I got the call from Sid called me actually, and he said, "Can you talk?" And he told me, I was like, "Absolutely, I'll do it. You got it, no problem." Yeah, it was an honor, and I spoke to Dave today actually, and he's sending me a bunch of species products as a thank you, which is pretty cool.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's
Listen,
awesome, man.
brother, all the best to you, man, and continued success. Much love and much success to you. And kiss the babies for me and say hello to your wife. And we will definitely be in touch, bro.
As always, we'll do it again soon.
All right, brother. Later.